This is The Locker Room, where the coaches of Husson University talk sports.
Hello everyone, I'm your host Nick Blaszczak, and this is The Locker Room, the show that introduces you to the coaches and athletes of Husson University. On today's show, we are pleased to be joined by head coach of the men's basketball team, Warren Caruso. First off, Coach, thank you for coming on the show today.
Great to be here, Nick. Thanks for having me.
Could you start off by providing a little bit about your background and roles here at Husson for people watching that may not know a lot about you?
Sure. I've been a part of the university now for 32 years in one way or another. First as a student and an athlete with the basketball program, then 6 years as an assistant coach in the basketball program, and then came to work full-time at the university as a head coach, so to speak, in 1994, and then associate AD in 09, and in 03, and then moved to development, helping the school raise money in 2009, and that's where I sit now. So, wore many hats.
Coach, as a Bangor native, you've been around the team for more than 30 years. How does it feel to manage a team in a place you call home?
Old. No, it's been a real pleasure for me to spend my professional career here at the university, and I joke a little bit that coaching is a wonderful experience and beats having a real job, so to speak, and working with young people and getting an opportunity to see them progress is real fulfilling experience for me over my career, and be able to do it in the hometown of Bangor that I went to high school with and grew up in, and certainly know a lot of people, and they've become very aware of my experience here at Husson. I think is only added to that experience.
Over the course of your Husson career, the Eagles have amassed 31 consecutive winning seasons. What does that say about the program?
Well, it's been a model of consistency, going back into the 60s. I think over the last 56 years, I think there's only been 2 losing seasons, going back to Delly Merrill, then Bruce McGregor and myself. And I guess I looked at myself as a guy who didn't screw it up. It takes a long time to build a program of success, and it can turn in a hurry. And we've worked hard to bring in the right student athletes and create a culture of positive growth for our athletes and for our program. And I think we've been really fortunate to have success, but it hasn't come without hard work and dedication, and all those things roll into one. I think create a culture where winning not only is expected, but it comes with the effort that we put into it.
This year, Husson captured their 5th conference title in the last 8 years. What allows them to be successful?
Well, again, I think it goes back to the culture and the people that we have in the program. Our student athletes are really committed. This group this year was, we really pushed as hard as we've ever pushed a group, and though it took us a little bit maybe to come together exactly the way we wanted to, the last 3 weeks of the year we played at an extremely high level, and we're fortunate to win our 5th championship in 8 years and 18th overall for the program. Certainly put ourselves in a great position, and again, I think it comes back to the people that are involved.
Coach, where one season ends, the next begins. Last year, Colby Sawyer knocked off Husson 86-73 in the conference finals. What takeaways did you use from that game to improve in the offseason?
Well, really, you look back at the 2015 season. We ended the year with a lot of disappointment, and it really didn't have as much to do with losing the championship as to the culture that we had in the last month of the year. Was really disappointed in how we finished the season from an approach standpoint, and really had a very poor spring. And we told our athletes, look, we're going to bring in a bunch of guys, and we're going to change the culture, and you can either be a part of it or not. And we were fortunate the right guys chose to stay. We brought in 10 new faces, and I think we brought in 4 transfers along with that, and really put ourselves in a much better position from a standpoint of where we wanted the culture to be. And then we built on it kind of almost from scratch in September. And certainly last year was an anomaly compared to others, and got off to a tremendous start. But really we learned a lot about ourselves, and really had to refocus and put a little different emphasis on some things for our student athletes.
Speaking of the offseason, legendary Husson basketball coach Bruce McGregor was enshrined into the Maine Basketball Hall of Fame last August. You had the privilege of being a player for him and then working alongside him as an assistant coach. What kind of an influence did he have on you as both an athlete and a mentor?
Yeah, I really can't quantify that. It's just such a huge impact on my life, and we probably talk about being best friends now today, but certainly when I was young, he helped guide me through some success as a player. And then I had a great fortune to work 6 years with him and absorbed a lot. I often say I don't know where, who I am as a coach, individually translates into the effect that he had on me. But today it all seems to blend into one. And many of the things and many of the approaches that we have still today go back to his influence on me as a young coach. And then he provided me or put me in a position to be a head coach, taking a year sabbatical, and we had success that year, won a championship, and really kind of felt like he felt like I think that the program was in good hands, and this was an opportunity for him to step back, and very grateful for that. And again, we remain best of friends today and see each other and speak often, and it's one of those. I think every coach, everyone in a profession, whatever it is, needs a mentor to guide them and to learn the ropes, so to speak, and was very fortunate. I think that set me up for success as a head coach.
Heading into the 2015-2016 season, the NAC preseason coaches poll selected Colby Sawyer to repeat. Considering how dominant Husson has been, did that projection surprise you at all?
No, I think polls are what they are, particularly in the early season. They go off what happened a year ago often. Particularly having their two best players back. I thought that's the way we voted. We had a lot of unanswered questions. We but graduated a number of student athletes over the previous 2 and 3 years. So we had a couple unproven commodities, some transfers that were going to make an impact, and so I think it was appropriate. And we, as a program, don't pay much attention to the polls, whether we're first or fourth. Our feeling is that each year we've got an opportunity to make a run at a championship, and the games need to be played out. And when you get into February, everyone has a better understanding of who and where teams stand.
Going hand in hand with being picked the #1 team is the expectation to follow suit. Husson being ranked the second place team, how much pressure do you face in the bid for the championship?
Really didn't feel any pressure. We felt like we needed to get our culture back of unselfish basketball and hard work, and we did a nice job. Our student athletes did a great job in the preseason, getting ourselves going in the right direction. We made a number of changes in our preseason conditioning program that our guys bought into, and really hit the ground running in October, and played with a lot of confidence all the way through the season, and again culminating in playing at a very high level in the last 3 weeks of the year.
The Eagles tipped off the season with an exhibition match against the University of Maine Black Bears. What can you learn from playing against tough non-conference opponents?
Well, we certainly always want to challenge ourselves as much as possible, and the Maine game I think is a great opportunity. It's a tough one for us to start the year with. I mean, we're playing well above so to speak our normal competition. But for the community, for our school, for Husson, I think it's a great chance for us to play at the Cross Center, play the Division I school, and compete at a high level. And anytime you compete at that level, generally speaking, you get exposed to some of the flaws that you had, and we learned a lot about ourselves in that game. And I think it really prepared us to particularly over the next month to kind of put ourselves in a better spot, knowing what things that we did well and things that we didn't do well.
You mentioned that the game took place downtown at the Cross Insurance Center. How special is it to play in a venue of that stature?
One thing is exciting for our guys. I mean, the game I think brings some things to bring some media attention, opportunity for community to come together and talk about it. And we've got a little bit of a history, with a win back in the 90s that some people still remember. And again, we could play them 10 times and not beat them. That's what's expected, really. But to play down the Cross Center and have some exposure for our program and the university, I think is real positive.
The Eagles open up conference play with a 23-point victory over the University of Maine Farmington Beavers. How important is it to begin conference play on a high note?
Yeah, we look at every conference game as of equal value. So, we're fortunate enough to start our year at home, and I think all 4 of our games in the first semester against conference opponents were at home, and that's certainly put us in a good position. We enter most conference games with a lot of confidence, and it's a lot easier, winning early and staying on top than playing catch up, and so I think from that perspective, it's always good to win and particularly protect your home court.
The Eagles rolled past Maine Maritime before being tested by the Chargers. Husson outlasted Colby Sawyer 90-86 in overtime. How did it feel to beat last year's reigning champs?
Yeah, we just. I think our guys probably looked at it that way. We looked at it as the next opponent and something that we needed to do. We were up 16, I think, in the second half, and ended up giving that lead up. And I remember more that part of the game more than entering the game, whether we were playing the defending champs or not. I think it was an important game to kind of establish our guys, particularly our new guys, and understanding where the league stands and our role or our expectation of what we wanted. And that was, again, the preseason number one. That's where a poll comes into play. Like, this is what everyone thinks. Where do we stand? So it was a good measuring stick at that time, particularly ending the first semester, and certainly ended positively for us.
You mentioned giving up 16 points late in the game. In a situation like that, opposing team goes on a hot streak. What do you do to tell your players to maintain composure and swing momentum back in your favor?
Well, most of the time you're just trying to find the right lineup, and trying to change that momentum. And our general approach is to remain calm and confident, and hopefully build some trust in our guys that look, we're okay. And Raheem in that game made a huge shot to tie it, but we did some things leading up to that. We made our we fouled, we scored. We put ourselves in a position to make a three-pointer. We didn't certainly play as well as we'd like to in the last 5 minutes, but I think we learned a lot in that game, and we carried some of that forward. And again, the game is played on trust. So the more your guys feel comfortable and that you trust them, that eventually turns the other way, and they start trusting you in the direction that you're giving them.
You mentioned junior guard Raheem Anderson, elite playmaker that can make defenders miss, has the ball in his hands with 8 seconds left in regulation, looking for a three to make the shot. What's going through your head as the final seconds wind down?
Yeah, well, it's coaching easy on the sidelines. You put something in place, and you put the ball in the best player's hands, and that's up to him to make a play. And certainly with him and Trayvon Butler, we had a couple guys that could make a lot of plays in a game, and particularly two guys to choose from at the end of the game to get the ball to. And on that particular night, Raheem got it done, and then if I remember correctly, Trey makes a couple big threes in overtime and pushes a 1-point lead up to 4 or 6. I don't remember what it was, but you're always a better coach with better players, and we've been real fortunate to have a fair amount of talent over my coaching career.
A big night for Anderson, who led all scorers with 35 points. How much easier does it make it managing critical moments of a game when you have a player as indispensable as Raheem?
Well, again, we're not the only ones that know he's a quality player. The other team does too, and I think one thing along the way, teams started doubling him, in those situations, getting the ball out of his hands. And the thing that I look at is, when you have the best player on the floor, or the best two players, which we felt most nights we did with him and Trayvon, you put yourself in a position to win. And it's not a complicated game, and we don't try to complicate it. We try to get the ball in the right hands, and in this case, most of the time it was Raheem or Trey when we needed a bucket, and hopefully in a position where they like it, and then it's up to them to make a play. And again, we've been fortunate enough to have guys that make a lot of plays.
All right, Coach, thank you for that. When we come back, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll dissect the rest of the Eagles' championship season and talk about what lies ahead for the future of Husson basketball.
Yes, I am. Give it to him hard. No.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Why you stab me with it? No.
They want to help,
Ow.
but don't know how.
Oh,
Teach your kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
Get caught buzz driving, and you could do some hard time.
Craig, knock it off.
Sorry, Mom.
It could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. And that could set you back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome back to the locker room. I'm your host, Nick Blaszczak. We are pleased to be joined by head coach of the men's basketball team, Warren Caruso. Coach, thanks for sticking around. Now, prior to the break, we were talking about opening conference play on a high note and opening conference play on a high note and the nail-biting victory that you had over Colby Sawyer. During the holiday break, you guys had the chance to compete in the Springfield West Hampton Classic. How did that affect team chemistry?
Well, we look at travel as an opportunity to bring chemistry together, and often, particularly over break, we try to play the highest caliber teams that we can and mix in a travel opportunity with that. Springfield tournament was outstanding with Bates that was in it, who went to the Sweet 16. Springfield, who was in the NCAA tournament the year before, and then I forget who the fourth team was, but opportunity to play in the Naismith Classic where basketball all started. I think was a historic, gave our players some historical perspective. We visited the Sports Hall the Basketball Hall of Fame, and then played some pretty good basketball to get started coming back from break. So it was a real positive trip for us, even though we lost in the championship game. But all in all, we took away a lot of positive things from the trip, and I think we helped build our chemistry.
And that certainly translated into 5 straight conference victories, extending the perfect NAC record to 9-0 before hitting a roadblock in a physical Green Mountain Eagles team. What did Green Mountain do to give you guys trouble?
Yeah, I look at our conference play over the last 3 years, and we started out 8-0, 9-0, 10-0 each of the last 3 years, and then we stumbled a little bit. Certainly, Green Mountain was a very talented team. I think they had 4 Division I transfers or Division I and Division II transfers. So the outlook or the roster changed from one year to the next with Green Mountain. Thought our guys responded well. We got down early, came back, took control of the game, and then just weren't able to score down the stretch. Didn't do a good enough job of. Felt like we were very impatient in that game. And again, we learned a little bit about ourselves, and Green Mountain not being eligible for the postseason, I think, affected maybe a little bit of our mindset in that game. And again, but a learning experience that we move forward from, and continue to play good basketball after that.
The Eagles bounced back from that loss with a 5-game win streak, including a non-conference victory over Colby College. A big factor in that stretch was the play of 2015-16 NAC Player of the Year, Trayvon Butler. What kind of a presence did the senior forward bring into the locker room day in and day out?
Trey has kind of been our rock here for the last 3 years in our program. Winning 2 Player of the Year awards, once as a sophomore and then again this year as a senior. And we always looked at him as our energy guy, the guy that kind of got us going in a bunch of different ways, whether it be with a steal or a big basket or taking a charge. He really contributed in a lot of different ways. But particularly in the Colby game, he just took the game over offensively. I think that was a game he had 7 threes or 8 threes, and it was a big win for us. Non-conference wins play handily into postseason seeding, and we really hadn't had one that we could really hang our hat on. So Colby was the first one we really got that provided us some confidence and a little bit of a resume as well.
Anderson and Butler seem to have a knack for finding each other on the court. What makes them a dynamic duo that creates havoc for opposing defenses?
Well, their talent first. The talent skill level is very high, and particularly as a guard with the ball in your hand and be able to create in a lot of different ways. I think that was one of those things. They both possess a very good 3-point shot, so they usually getting played tight, and then they have very good quickness and ball handling skills that allow them to get by. And most teams have one good defender. To have a second defender that can really guard on the perimeter is usually there's a drop off. So one of them, generally speaking, had a mismatch, and I think we utilize those opportunities to our advantage throughout the year.
One player who was called upon often this season was freshman Justin Martin, the 6'5" forward. Didn't start any games this season, but had the 3rd highest average in terms of minutes per game. How beneficial is it to have a guy like that, a young impact player, come off the bench when stars need to catch their breath?
Yeah, we were really high on Justin coming into the year. Didn't know how it would all play out, but really felt like he was going to get minutes. Again, I didn't think maybe he'd get the minutes he got, but his impact on the defensive end of the floor and his ability to rebound, really was hard to keep him off the floor, particularly, when he doesn't need shots. And we had a couple guys that needed the ball in their hands with Raheem and Trey a fair amount. So he was a great role player in that sense. He waited for his opportunities, and really at mid-January we looked at putting him in the starting lineup, but really had gotten comfortable with our rotation and bringing him, Eli Aitken, and then Darryl Wood off the bench. Really giving us a very powerful 3 off the bench. Would have started for anyone else in the conference probably. So everyone kind of got bought in, got comfortable, and so Justin didn't get an opportunity to start, but I imagine moving forward he'll find those opportunities.
The Eagles ranked 3rd in rebounds per game this season with 40 per game. A big reason for that is the play of Zach Curran and Darryl Wood, the two some big physical, grab loose boards. What allows them to dominate the paint?
Well, I think it's one part of it is it's 2 versus 1. So that we were able to keep both of them fresh. Zach was a banger. Took up some space, and I think he, by his own admission, he'd say he's kind of an average rebounder. But one thing he always did was keep the guy that he was guarding off to allow other guys to get the ball. Daryl is just so athletic and strong. I mean, he's more of a guard probably than he is a center, but being able to utilize those skills and quickness, both with his jump and getting to the ball really made him a very valuable component of what we did, and particularly learned to and accepted the idea that he was going to play inside. And really, if you look at the last month, and you looked at those numbers in his last month, they were significantly higher than they were, in the previous, probably 10 games, 12 games. Really started to understand how he can affect the game.
Husson hit their only 2-game losing streak of the season in early February with losses to Johnson State and again to Green Mountain College. Now, the second time you played the Green Mountain team, they were the first place team in the conference, and that was just a few weeks after they withdrew from postseason consideration. Do you think that matchup for them, Battle of the Eagles, 2 top teams, was that their championship game?
Well, we certainly talked about that with our guys, that this was the thing that they could hang their hat on, and if they were to win that particular game and everything else played out according to what people expected, then they could crown themselves as regular season champions. We got off to a great start in that game. We were up 18 at half and really played tremendous first half, and then we got on our heels in the second half and just didn't respond as well. I don't know how much it played a role in it, from the standpoint of where they were in the postseason picture, but I think it affected our guys a little bit. At the end of the day, we left that day knowing that we could move on and it wasn't going to affect our seeding, and really just needed to win one of our last 4 games after that to lock up the first place, the first place and home court advantage in the tournament.
Husson won out the regular season. You guys certainly rebounded very well and took that momentum into the playoffs, winning the entire playoffs, defeating Colby Sawyer at 94-77 to capture the conference title. How did it feel to beat the reigning champs?
Yeah, again, you keep referring to that reigning champs. We really never looked at it that way. We felt like we were the best team, and people had to beat us, and particularly once you got to the halfway mark of the season and we kind of got through the first round of NAC games. In that game, we felt like they had to beat us, and as long as we played our game, we were going to win. And in the second half, again, Trayvon just kind of came off, and people chuckled at me watching me on the bench. I think there's more interesting things to watch than me, but my expressions and such, there was nothing we were doing. It was all him. He took over the game, and as you would want a senior to do, and in a very big way. Again, with 12 minutes to go in the game, I think he had 2 points, and then he made 7 straight threes on 9 trips. Pretty impressive, and wasn't a lot of coaching going on there. That was just clapping. Good job.
Well, following the season, Coach, 4 Eagles earned Maine Men's Basketball Coaches and Writers Association honors. Trayvon Butler and Raheem Anderson, first all-team Maine selections. Justin Martin, Rookie of the Year. Not Rookie of the Year, but made the rookie team. And you yourself earned Coach of the Year. How does it feel to receive state recognition for your efforts?
Yeah, the thing that I think gets missed on that is the coaches poll that voted us to the best team in the state, the #1 ranking in the state. I think that really means probably more to us than anything else. I think the individual honors come when your team has success, and for everyone that was on that you just named, it was the whole group that made those individuals successful, and that's really how we approach those things. And we certainly acknowledge the awards and congratulate those individuals, but we also look at it very much from a team perspective. And so if you look at all those things that the state awarded, the #1 thing was that the coaches voted us as the best team in the state, and that's something that's eluded us in recent years. So that's something that I really was proud of, that our guys were able to accomplish that previous groups couldn't quite get there.
You mentioned the ranking by Hero Sports, the national determination, the classification as the best program in the state, regardless of division. What is it like? They did that for every single state, so what is it like to join the ranks of the Arizona Wildcats, the Kansas Jayhawks, and the Yukon Huskies? Yeah, that was a nice surprise. Again, the poll I referenced before was a state poll. This one was certainly more of a national look at things, and it's something that we've always felt like we were the best team, best program in the state. If you look at our winning history, our trips to the national tournament, our the NAI All-Americans that we've had and such. So it put validation onto something that we already felt, and I was really proud for not just our current team, but you look at our program's history that goes back 50 years. We really wanted to make sure our alumni knew that had happened. And again, it's a good recruiting tool, particularly when you talk about out of state, that don't have a context of maybe how good we are or the level that we play at.
to be recognized that, in that form at a national group that we didn't influence, I thought, was a real positive thing for our program and our recruiting.
With the season over, you mentioned recruiting. Now that it's in full force, what do you look for in a player when recruiting?
Well, we're recruiting for next year, kind of starts now. I mean, we're looking at, we'll be seniors now. So a year ago, we were looking at guys that we felt could help the program. We've gotten, some good commitments from some three in-state student athletes that we really like, and we're, recruiting 3 out-of-state athletes with the hope that we'll get 1 or 2 of those to finish off the class. But the first thing we look at is the quality of the individual. Do they have a passion for being educated? Do they have a passion for basketball? Do they like to work? Those are certainly some things that we look at before we look at the skill level, and then they got to be successful. And one of the things that we really look at is particularly in the positions of 1 through 4, can they shoot the ball? I mean, anyone that's watched us play, generally speaking, every position on the floor has the ability to shoot, and I think that's one of the things that makes us kind of dangerous in our system is we got a bunch of guys that can shoot, and you got to guard all 5 spots. So you got to be able to fit into that mode a little bit in some way. And I think one of the things that we've done really well in the last probably 8 years, 5 years certainly, is look at our roster and the type of student that we want, type of athlete that we need to play at the, what we look at as a regional and national level, which is what we're striving for. And I think we've made a lot of strides there, and we're really close.
Even in the off-season, you still manage to stay around the game by coaching at clinics and camps. How does it feel to coach young, up-and-coming, developing players?
Well, sometimes it's great therapy. You work with, college guys, and sometimes practice is really good, and other times you want to pound your head against the wall. But you get a bunch of young guys in the gym, grades, 3 through 8, so to speak, and you can see the passion that they have and the desire to get better. And, it's always fun to do a drill, and then you come back the next day, the second day of camp, and you got half the group trying to do the things that you did yesterday because they're trying to master them, and so that's really exciting. And and we run a team camp with high school teams, and to see them get started in their off season and playing and trying to come together, those things just keep you motivated. In fact, yesterday I posted on my Facebook page, 192 days to our first practice on October 15th. So you're already thinking about it, and you don't ever stop, and what are the things we got to do between now and then to be ready.
And finally, Coach, will we see you get your 450th win next year?
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure how far I am, but somewhere along the way that will happen. And I've been around long enough, and hopefully we continue to be successful. And you look at next year's group with 14 out of 15 guys coming back, and our top 9 out of 10 are coming back. We're really excited about the team that we're going to have next year, and hopefully we can pile up some more W's and inch closer to that number wherever I may be with it.
Coach, thank you for coming on the show today.
Appreciate it, Nick.
Congratulations on a championship season, and best of luck next year defending the title.
Great, thank you.
All right, well, when we come back, we'll recap our Husson Athletes of the Week. Stay tuned.
How can I help my daughter with her reading?
Searching for help with Dachshund Reading.
No.
Let me try. Sarah's bright, but when she's reading, she has trouble sounding out words.
Playing world music.
What?
I give up.
Wait, I was trying to show you how Sarah feels every day. Frustrating, isn't it? Redirecting to understood.org.
Join parents and experts at understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues to help your child thrive.
Welcome back to the Locker Room. I'm your host, Nick Blaszczak, and before the break, we were pleased to be joined by head coach of the men's basketball team, Warren Caruso. We now turn our attention to the Husson Athletes of the Week. Congratulations to shortstop Mike Wong of the men's baseball team and thrower Erin Ellison of the women's outdoor track and field team. That's all the time we have for this episode of The Locker Room. We would like to thank Coach Caruso for coming on the show today. For more Husson sporting news and information, follow The Locker Room on Twitter at lockerroom_TV. If you'd like to watch this episode or any previous episode again, head over to our NESCom journalism channel on YouTube. You can catch the next edition of The Locker Room on Friday, April 8th. For everyone working hard behind the scenes, I'm Nick Blaszczak. Have a great rest of your day.